A moving truck can tow a trailer if the combined weight of the trailer and the boxes it contains is no more than 4,600 pounds. What is the maximum number of boxes this truck can tow in a trailer with a weight of 500 pounds if each box weighs 120 pounds? So it can be no more than 4,600. So technically this is an inequality. I'm just going to treat it as an equal sign for now. Let's see. 500 pounds. So the trailer itself weighs 500 pounds. That's not going to change. That's a constant. But we don't know how many boxes. That's kind of what we're looking for. So that's going to be an X, and each box is 120 pounds. Subtract my 500. Divide both sides by 120. 34.16666 equals X. This is the most that I could carry. I cannot carry more than this. So I cannot do 35 because it's more. And even if I were gonna just think of it as rounding, this would not round up to 35. We've got 34 as our answer. What is the positive solution to the given equation? This is a quadratic. We like to solve quadratics by getting them equal to 0. And I prefer a positive coefficient, so I'm just going to move everything to the other side. A positive leading coefficient. So that's going to be a positive 4x squared, a positive 7x. Would still be a negative 36 equals 0. There's nothing I can factor out, so I'm just going to have to use the AC method. 4 times negative 36 is negative 144. And add to 7. It's going to take a little bit of time to figure out these factors, but the numbers that multiply to negative 144 and add to 7 is negative 9 and positive 16. Now I will take my 4x squared. I'm going to rewrite this 7x into two pieces. I'm going to write it as a positive 16x and a negative 9x, borrowing those magic numbers. Now I'll factor by grouping. 4x, and I'm left with x plus 4. Factor out that negative 9, and I'm left with x plus 4. Put the outsides together, 4x minus 9, and put the inside matches together. This times this equals 0. That means one of these two things has to be 0. If my finger was 0, 0 times this equals 0. So I'm going to pretend that my finger is 0. I'm going to pretend that 4x minus 9 is 0. That is a decimal, but it is positive. And I don't have any decimals as my answer choice. So I'm liking that so far. Let's just come over here. This times my finger equals 0, so my finger could equal 0 now. X plus 4 could be the piece that equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. X is negative 4. We're strictly looking for a positive solution, so we do want that positive 9 over 4. The table summarizes the distribution of color and shape for 100 tiles of equal area. If one of these tiles is selected at random, what is the probability of selecting a red tile? So we want red tiles divided by the total. Express your answer as a decimal or fraction, not as a percent. So there are 10, 20, that'd be a total of 30 reds out of the entire amount. So with these graphs, it's really nice. They give us all the totals. There's a total of 100 tiles. 100 total. By 100, there's not enough room for that in the student produced response section. So I need to either simplify this fraction or get a decimal. 30 divided by 100 is 0.3, or as a simplified fraction, it's 3 over 10. Either one of those would be accepted. F. The graph of y equals f of x in the xy plane is parallel to line J. What is the slope of line J? So parallel, those double L's, Those are lines that never touch. And I point out those double L's because if you turn sideways, double L's is equal. Parallel lines have equal slopes. So I need to find the slope of this line, and then I have my answer. Slope is the coefficient in front of x, so the slope of a parallel line is also going to be 2. A proposal for a new library was included on an election ballot. A radio show stated that 3 times as many people voted in favor of the proposal as those who voted against it. A social media post reported that 15,000 more people voted in favor of the proposal than voted against it. Based on these data, how many people actually voted against the proposal? Times as many people voted in favor as people who voted against it. And then there's another study that said 15,000 more, so plus 15,000, voted in favor of the proposal and voted against it. So I'm going to say X because I don't know that number. Divide by 2, 15,000 divided by 2, 7,500. Figure lines M and N are parallels. They are never going to touch. If x equals 6x plus 13 and y equals 8, the value of z. So x and y are vertical angles because they only share a vertex, and vertical angles are always equal. So 6x plus 13 equals 8. Well, let me rephrase that. That should be okay. There we go. 6k plus 13 equals 8k minus 29. 2k equals 15 plus 29. 42. Divide both sides of 2. K equals 21. How does that get us to z? Well, I can plug how big that angle actually is. 8 times 21 is 29. Angle is 139 degrees. If we have parallel lines, these two angles y and z are same side interior angles, so they are supplementary. So 139 plus angle z has to add to 180. Subtract my 139 from both sides, and z equals 41. Negative 3x plus 21px equals 84. In the given equation, p is a constant. The equation has no solution. What is the value of p? As I am looking at this, I'm seeing that everything here is divisible by 3. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out a 3 just to make everything a little bit smaller and easier to deal with. Let's both have an x, so let's go ahead and factor x out. So let's just try dividing. This is where I'm at. When it says this equation has no solution, that's another way of saying that the denominator has to equal 0. Negative 1 plus 7p would have to equal 0 in order for there to be no solution to this equation. 7p equals 1. 7 p equals 1 over 7. The function f is defined by the given equation. For what value of x does f of x reach its minimum? Since I have my graphing calculator, I'm probably going to use that. But I would distribute this. Actually, I can just plug it in like this. I don't need to distribute. Save some time. So our y equals, figure everything else out. I can go to graph it. Okay, there's my graph. I can zoom out a little bit, or I just do second trace minimum. I'm gonna start at on the left side of the minimum. There we go. Left side of the minimum, arrow over. Be on the right side of the minimum. There we go. Press enter, press enter. My minimum is at negative 1.5. We'll say negative 132.25. Negative 1.5. None of these are decimals, but number sense, or I can use my calculator. Negative 1.5 is negative 3/2. Next one. The function f of x equals 1/9 times x minus 7 squared plus 3 gives a metal ball's height above the ground, f of x in inches, x seconds after it started moving on a track where x is greater than, or x is sandwiched between 0 and 10. Which of the following is the best interpretation of the vertex of the graph? So what I would do for this one, just throw it in your y equals. Put it in that y equals. Go ahead and look at the graph. Here's my graph. I've got a parabola. It's opening upwards. Let's look through our answer choices. The metal ball's minimum height was 3 inches above the ground. Well, that number that's by itself, that is our constant, and that's our y-intercept. I like that answer. The ball's minimum height was 7 inches above the ground. That's not true based on our equation, and also if I looked at my graph, the lowest it's getting is around 3. The metal ball's height was 3 inches above the ground when it started moving. According to our graph, that's not true. It started up here. The metal ball's height was 7 inches above the ground. Well, 3 inches above the ground and 7 inches above the ground when it started moving. Neither of those are going to be true. In triangle JKL, cosine of K is 24/51. Angle J is the right angle. So this has to be J. The other two don't matter. Cosine of K is 24/51. So, in TOA, cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So adjacent to K is 24. Hypotenuse is 51. What is the cosine of L? So I need to find this side, and the cosine of L will be whatever x over 51 is. To find that side, I've got a right triangle. I don't have any angles, so I could do inverse trig. But I'm just going to use Pythagorean theorem. 24 squared plus x squared equals 51 squared. 24 squared. Takes a 1. X squared is 2025. Take the square root. Is 45. So we're going to replace that with 45 over 51. Unfortunately, that will not fit in the student produced response section. So we either have to get a decimal, 0.88 to round to 4, because it can only fit maximum of 5 characters. So 1 character, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters. And so that's an answer choice, or we could reduce this fraction. 25 divided by 51. Yeah, enter. 15 over 17 would be another acceptable answer.